Okay, hello. It's such a sunny day. Yeah! Hello everybody, my name is Dana and this is my life, and today I'm very pleased to share with you my favorite podcasts ever to this resting point, okay? I've divided everything into 4 sections, and for each section I've got 2 podcasts. Not a lot, like 8 podcasts, yeah, math. Yes, I'm a fan of podcasts, of long podcasts especially. Like, I love to listen to the podcast in the morning. I'm like very sleepy, waking up and somebody's just talking to me chill, setting the tune. You can control what kind of podcast you're listening, what kind of vibe you want to have. Podcast. This list could be longer if I included all the podcasts I listen to, but I just included something that I love, something that changed me. The ideas are great, like golden nuggets there. For sure. Plus, these were the things I was binge listening to. And let's go. The first section is criminal podcasts. This video would be incomplete without me talking about my favorite and first podcast. It is Serial by This American Life with Sarah Koenig, and I absolutely loved it. It's so good. I guess it's the most popular podcast. Let me check. Yeah, it is. If you have not listened to this, go. So mainly what Sarah Koenig does, in the first and second season, she explores 2 different stories. The first season is about this murder that happened in the high school. The point is that it's like solved, but lots of facts, lots of puzzles does not fit together. It's just like crazy how everything happened. Exploring this story, analyzing things, realizing that there's something very wrong about it. Something incomplete. It's very frustrating. Only after finishing this podcast, I've learned that this is not fiction. Like, it blew my mind because I thought it's like a made-up thing. No, it's not. It's something that happened in reality. It's just crazy. The third season is quite different. It's like each episode, she goes to the trial, to the court, every single week, talks about events that are happening there, some hearings, and we learn about how American trial system works right now. All these stories from one side and from the other. This whole thing shows you how subjective trial might be, how it is subjective because people made this. It's like very weird, but it's very interesting. I was very happy when like the first season launched and I was like, soundtrack of Serial gives me goosebumps. It's so good. The second criminal podcast is The Trial Went Cold, and it's about unsolved mysteries and murders that happened a long time ago. It's like 2000, 1970, 1975. So it's been like 50 years, 30 years, 20 years between us and what happened, and it's still unsolved. In most stories there were some suspects, but nobody was like completely 100% sure that this person did that, because some facts, some things did not work out. I grew up in the household where my mom was always watching some detective stories, whodunit stuff. Because of that, I was interested in the crime and all this like detective things. When it's all fiction, it's not that hard to me, because it's like, okay, the author made it up, but here it's like true stories. This has actually happened in the reality that we live in. Most of these crimes are just as crazy, as splendid as the fictional ones. And this whole thing about true crime, it blew my mind. Now let's move on to something positive. Some podcasts that you can listen in the morning and feel the positive vibe. Not something that would give you nightmares. The next section is podcasts talking about creativity. The first one is my favorite of 2019. I was googling something like creative tips on something. Then I found this podcast and I started like listening to episodes like this one, because there's so many things discussed in this podcast. It's called Creative Pep Talk, run by Andy J. Pizza, and I absolutely love the energy that it gives. Okay, one thing that it taught me, not verbally, is that it's okay to be weird. Get comfortable with that. The host talks about both creativity process, like how to overcome your slow slumps or how to get motivation. At the same time, it talks about the practical side of creativity, such as market, business. When we're talking about creativity, it's so easy to go to the inspirational stuff. It's something very foggy, something that sounds great, but actually it's not very like handy. While this information is very practical, very interesting. You've got lots of references to everything connected with creativity, to like different books, to different people that he brought up on the show. Andy J. Pizza is an illustrator himself, and he is in that field, so he knows lots of tricky things. He talks about what he knows about his journey with drawing, with illustrating, with publishing. It's so practical and entertaining at the same time. Wow! And it's just an amazing way to start your day. Starting my day with Andy J. Pizza. Yeah, I'm just amazed how cool people can be. The second creative podcast called Worklife with Adam Grant.
I'm Adam Grant. I'm an organizational psychologist.
I've learned about this amazing person through TED. Adam Grant has 2 TED Talks, and one of them is just my all-time favorite, is The Surprising Habits of Original Thinkers. I watched it, I don't know, 12, 20, 30 times, quite a lot. I lost the count. This podcast is about him going to the different companies and exploring some aspects of their work, how they do certain things, how they succeed in this certain field, about like work life, how better to organize it, how you can boost your efficiency, creativity, your originality, all these interesting things. Talked about fear, criticism, outsiders, how can you use it in your work life, and how different companies work, the structure, the very interesting insights. I even like his commercials because their commercials are usually included in the way that it's just like interesting, and at the same time you got lots of useful information from that. Lots of psychology things, lots of work life, just cool. Okay, moving on. Next section is inspiration. The first podcast here is Your Own Magic. Your Own Magic is a spiritual, soul-expanding podcast. This podcast I would listen if I had like a bad day, if I'm like in a sad mood or something. I don't want something super positive or something, but this one, it just like calms me down, brings good vibes into my life, but at the same time, it's just like I'm in the better state after listening to this. So Rick Hill interviews different interesting, spiritual, creative people. They talk about an amazing variety of subjects, such as some spiritual practices, such as health, like finding your way, connecting with the universe, living happier. Oh, they talk about nature and connection with the nature. It's so inspiring and so good. Look, I was preparing myself to listen to this podcast from autumn, but finally this month I listened to it and I absolutely loved it, because I wanted to have like not one episode, because I'm a binge watcher, binge listener, and I wanted to have a multiple, so I would sit and listen to everything, and I did. It's called Our Life and it's run by Jumba, Yusuf and Nay. You probably know them from YouTube. It's just amazing people. These 3 girls come together and discuss different topics. They do it so casually. Like, I felt like I was sitting there with them at the table and just listening as if they were my friends. And it's just like so cool because it's not like trying to be perfect or something. They talk real, okay? I really like the structure that they have. Like, they discuss the reflection on the week, what happened with them, then they discuss the topic, and afterwards they have like the weekly inspiration that they had, and it's just like very comfortable, very cool, something that speaks to my soul and inspired 3 young creatives from Zurich on mental health, the challenges of growing up, and their journeys to living more sustainable lives. I felt so happy. The episode's not really long. Yeah, for me, 48 minutes is not long because 1 hour and 30 minutes is just fine. The 4th section I was like doubting to include because they're very specific and random and they would not suit everyone. I decided to include them because I was listening to them quite a lot. Just random stuff. Podcast. First podcast called the Reaching New Heights podcast experience by Lauren Early. It's for Irish dancers. Lauren Early, she's a very popular coach in Irish dance world. So there's some things that might be interesting for other dancers, such as like nutrition plan, goal setting, dealing with stress and confidence on the competition day, sleep schedule, all this interesting aspect is something that any other dancer or any other sportsman might find interesting and beneficial. The last podcast I'm going to share with you today called Arzamas, and it's in Russian, so if you know Russian, check that out. Arzamas is a huge project on history, on literature and other humanitarian studies, where they discuss very weirdly different things about history, about literature, not in the school way, but it's so freaking interesting, and podcast is just like a small part of it. Different lectors, different professors who are very deep in their subject. They know so much about their subject that they find another way to explain it, another looking at the same thing from the different perspective, like looking at the history, how to read certain books, how to read Lolita, for example, like how ancient names change. They talk about economy of pirates. Come on, this kind of ways of exploring the culture that was before us is just amazing. I'm just trying to find the same project in English or German. The format and the subjects, both very interesting. There are some certain podcasts that I was hoping to like, but I didn't. So yeah, I just shared the ones that actually I had this sparkle after listening to them. If you know any great podcasts, especially with different accents, such as, I don't know, British, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, New Zealand, any other accent, please comment down below, because I'm like always searching for them. Right now I'm listening to a lot of like American podcasts, but I want to see more diversity, abundance. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something interesting for yourself, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye. Why see you? You're gonna see me. I can't see you, unfortunately. Podcast.